I'm Jay.
I'm G.
And we're going to read Red Knot, A Shorebird's Incredible Journey by Nancy Carol Willis. And let me tell you, this journey truly is incredible. Just look at this map that we're going to talk about. Those lines show where these birds go. So it's February 1st, Tierra del Fuego. Cool breezes brush across the southernmost tip of South America, and winter is coming. A robin-sized shorebird called a red knot prepares to make one of the longest animal migrations. Dark gray wing feathers replace old worn ones. Salmon red body feathers begin to appear. As the departure time nears, Red Knot's heart and wing muscles grow stronger. She stuffs herself daily on tiny clams, storing excess fat to use as fuel on her long journey.
February 13th. Red Knot takes flight along with 100 other knots.
February 14th. 900 miles north. Red Knot reaches Argentina's smooth, rocky tide pools, and she swallows small mussels whole. Her gizzard grinds up the shells along with the food. Layers of fat grow thicker.
April 4th. 1,000 miles farther north, Red Knot plucks sails from shallow, grassy lagoons in southern Brazil. April 28th. Red Knot flies inland over the Amazon rainforest, headed for the northeast coast of Brazil. Aided by a tailwind, she makes the 2,300-mile non-stop flight in 3 days. May 1st. Northeast Brazil. At low tide along the shoreline, Red Knot pulls mussels off of the tangled mangrove roots. Red breeding feathers now cover her body.
May 11. Late afternoon, Red Knot flies out over the Atlantic Ocean with no landmarks to guide her, and she makes a turn northwest toward Delaware Bay, 4,000 miles away. May 12th. At midnight, Red Knot crosses the equator. The stars and the Earth's magnetic forces help keep her on course.
May 13th. Rain and wind beat against Red Knot. Her small wings pumping hard, she rises 10,000 feet above the storm to clear skies. Exhausted, Red Knot's body fat is gone. Her body now must burn muscle for energy to keep her aloft.
May 15. Delaware Bay. As Red Knot approaches, another migration from the deep waters is ending. Horseshoe crabs by the thousands crowd the shallow shoreline. The high tide ebbs. Round horseshoe-shaped shells for the crabs bump and clatter as male crabs compete for females.
One male clasps tightly to a large female's shell as she digs a shallow nest in the sand. She lays a golf ball-sized cluster of tiny gray-green eggs. She drags the smaller male over the eggs to fertilize them. An hour later, another female accidentally digs up the nest, exposing thousands of eggs that shorebirds can now take for food. May 15th. Delaware Bay. Red Knot lands along with other knots, bone-weary and starving. Flocks of sanderlings, sandpipers, dunlins, and dowitchers crowd the salty shoreline. Tens of thousands of squawking shorebirds feast on the fat, rich horseshoe crab eggs.
May 18. Peck, peck, peck. Red Knot eats one horseshoe crab egg every second. If she is able to double her weight in 2 weeks, she must eat 18,000 eggs a day. Caha, 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 shriek the laughing gulls. The large black and white birds pester Red Knot, preventing her from eating.
All day long, motorboats roar past. Sometimes dogs chase the birds. Each time, the frightened birds burst into the air, using energy they cannot spare. Red Knot looks elsewhere for a quiet place to feed.
May 21st. A flock of shorebirds forages at a high tide line. After a loud bang, a large net flies over the birds, and Red Knot is trapped underneath. Her heart is beating wildly.
A huge creature grabs her, but no claws sink into her flesh. A colored flag and a metal band encircle her legs. The creature lets go. Unharmed, Red Knot flies to safety and feeds again. May 28th. Red Knot weighs 220 grams, or 8 ounces, as much as 2 sticks of butter. The fat fuels her next flight to the Arctic nesting grounds and gives her the energy to lay eggs. In the early evening, several thousand knots lift off. Red Knot joins them for the 1,800-mile non-stop flight.
June 1st. 10,000 miles from home. The snowbanks on the Canadian tundra have begun to melt. Insects have not yet hatched, so Red Knot nibbles on seeds and scarce spiders. June 5th. Overhead, a male Red Knot calls, "Whip-poo-mee! Whip-poo-mee!" He glides near the ground, then swoops upward again, calling, "Poo-mee! Poo-mee!"
Finally, the male stands near Red Knot, wings held high, and she chooses him as her mate.
June 8th. Using his feet, the male Red Knot digs a shallow hole into the rocky ground, and he finishes the nest by lining it with dried willow leaves and soft lichens. Red Knot lays 4 splotchy brown and green eggs in the snug nest, and together they total more than half of her weight.
June 14th. A snowy owl swoops silently by. Red Knot freezes, low on the nest until danger passes. Her speckled feathers camouflage her among the rocks and mosses. July 3rd, chicks hatch. Within hours, 4 downy knots snatch flies and mosquitoes to eat. Near the Arctic Circle, food is now plentiful and the sun never sets. July 10th, Red Knot departs on her southward migration, leaving her mate to protect the chicks. July 22nd, the male knot leaves the Arctic a month before his young, who can now care for themselves.
August 1st. Unseen, a hungry Arctic fox approaches the young Red Knots. He drops low to the ground and he creeps closer. Then he lunges. The knots scatter in all directions, diving for cover. The fox chases one bird, then another, but catches nothing. August 3rd. 600 miles south, Red Knot forages along the marshy shores of James Bay. With ruddy turnstones and godwits, she devours clams and small worms that are crammed by the thousands in the mud and eelgrass.
August 6th, New England coast. Recent storms have washed away the clumps of mussels along with the sand. To find food, Red Knots must fly south to the New Jersey shores.
August 25th. French Guiana. Blue skies welcome Red Knot to South America. Winter is giving way to spring there. September 15th. Brazil. Red Knot flies over the Amazon rainforest, and the trees look like a green ocean below.
October 31st. Tierra del Fuego. Red Knot touches down on the windy coastline.
She preens a worn flight feather and then folds her wings. She tucks her bill into her back, ready for a long nap. After 9 months and 20,000 miles, Red Knot is finally home. We also wanted to read this end part about why scientists place leg bands on red knots. Scientists traveled to distant parts of the world to study red knots. These places include Argentina, Brazil, the Delaware Bay, and Canada. They focused their attention on the large red knots because food shortages along the migration route would likely hurt them before affecting the smaller birds. After catching the birds with nets, as you saw in this story, scientists weigh and measure the birds. This information indicates whether the red knots are healthy and fat enough to survive long-distance flights. Scientists also place bands around the birds' legs that allow them to follow individual birds from year to year and place to place. Our red knot in the story wears a lime green flag with the letters ALX. The author chose to use those letters for her dog Alex. She then learned that Alex is an actual red knot that was banded in Delaware Bay on May 14th in 2004, weighing 115 grams, which is just over a stick of butter. Alex was sighted wintering in Tierra del Fuego and again in Delaware Bay during May 2005. Become part of an international shorebird population study by reporting shorebirds wearing leg bands to various scientists all over the world. The end.